Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by No Halftime. Use promo code BBALL100 to get up to a $100 deposit bonus to use in the app. You can find the No Halftime app on the Apple Store and Amazon.com. This episode is also sponsored by Draft, a daily fantasy app where your chances of winning are almost 3 times better than on FanDuel or DraftKings. On Draft, it's draft day every day. You can do a simple snake draft for one day whenever you want. Drafts take just minutes to complete. Download Draft now. Be sure to enter the promo code Dfbp when you download to get a 100% deposit bonus. And with that, we are off. Welcome to the show for Sunday, December 18th, a special weekend edition of the show. The Judge is giving you a holiday special for this really scary, dicey, wicked 5-game slate we have going on Sunday night. There's 6 games total on Sunday in the NBA. I'm going to not count the one that's starting in the afternoon. I'm only going to cover the main slate, and that's 5 games. So that's going to knock off one of the best games of the day is the Clippers at Washington. But that's just the way the slate goes, man. I prefer to only play the main slates. I get a lot of questions. Do I play late night Express and all that stuff? And I just don't do it. The main slate is enough for the Judge, and that's what we'll tackle on the show. So 5 games, like I said, and one of those is Utah at Memphis, which is horrifying for all of us. Granted, it has a 185 over-under. I think I tweeted out that's a typo, and it should be like an 85 over-under. But since there's only 5 games, including that, really there's 4 if you don't include it, there's some guys we can attack in that game. For the most part, though, if we're in cash games, if you want to just X that one out, perfectly fine with that as well. And and probably you can attack that game in GPPs. End of the night, very easily a guy or two from that game could help someone win $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. So you never know. Before we dive into the show, hopefully it won't be too long of a show, but you guys know the Judge. I ramble. Hope you download the app Draft. Very easy to do. I've been lecturing you on this. Most of you guys have been pretty good about it. And then I also want you to challenge me on it. My name is The Judge. You do have to spell it the. Another thing, if you downloaded it and you forgot to use the promo code, which is DFBPOD, make sure you reach out to me via Twitter at DanielAGreen1 and let me know. And I'll make sure both of us get credit for that. You get your deposit bonus, and I get some credit for that as well. Important to do that. Any kind of smaller podcast that you listen to, I would say if you can support that podcast, do it. Because look, I make like nothing, no money from doing this. I know a lot of the other people who are trying to grind out a lot of podcasts to help people don't really make a lot of money. I mean, if you can, when you listen to the bigger podcasts like Bill Simmons or what Lebertard show, instead of using their codes, I would say, use some of the smaller pods you listen to, and because those shows, it really does make a difference. If you kind of support the sponsor, it really does help out. Other thing, if you could help the Judge, if you want to rate, so obviously, hopefully you're subscribed to the podcast, but if you want to rate and review it, that also helps me out a lot. So just little things like that, and I'm saying I really mean it. Not only my podcast, any other podcast that's kind of on the smaller scale, and not one of these guys who are already a multimillionaire and just. But the people who are grinding away, man, it helps out. So with that said, lately I've been getting a lot of questions about my website, which I ran last year, and then I just stopped because one, DFS became illegal in New York. And then this year I've kind of just been too busy with the podcast. I used to offer, my website, by the way, is dgcourtroomdfs.com. I used to offer a couple premium services. One of those was doing phone consultations, like 30-minute consultations, which were actually pretty cool to do. I got to talk to a lot of you guys last year, and it seemed pretty helpful. I mean, all the feedback I got was positive. I didn't get anyone saying, I did this and now I hate you. And I also did lineup assessments, which is some people would send me their cash game or GPP lineups at the end of every night, and then I would kind of review them. Because I'm telling you, you can't just go by the result. I mean, it's all about the process. So you could win one night, but if your process is flawed and you're picking wrong players for cash games and or GPPs, I mean, ultimately you're going to lose. You can have anyone can have a good night. I mean, it's, you can enter the chambers one night and win it and think you're the best player in the world, and then you could lose the next 100 nights. So DFS, I mean, it really is a skill game, but it's hard, and I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I know some people think you just click on some, your favorite players and off you go. But anyway, I'm thinking about bringing some of those back, some of those services. I don't know how much I'd be able to do, but if you have any interest in doing a phone, the 30-minute phone consultation or the lineup assessment, reach out to me and let me know. I'm going to do a consultation with someone tomorrow I just want to kind of help you guys out more. I mean, one thing that's kind of been bugging me lately is, I love roto grinders. I use it a lot, but I think they have such a monopoly right now on the DFS community that they're just, I don't know. In some ways, they've been lazy, I think. And I think anytime that there's consumers have alternatives and just different voices and other people kind of guiding them and showing them some new, unique, creative ways to go about something is beneficial. So so that's just so. I don't know. I mean, I've just seen lately a lot of people using the wrong lineups, and it's been frustrating for me. So I want to see you guys do well, and that's kind of why I'm doing the show. And that's why I'm doing the show at 3 a.m. For a Sunday 5-game slate when probably everyone's going to be watching football. I don't even know if you guys play DFS on Sunday. Hopefully you do. Anyway, let's dive into it. First, let's talk about Chambers on Saturday. We had, I guess first let's talk power rankings. So I updated the new power rankings for Chambers. That came out. Hopefully you guys, I tweeted that out on Twitter. That's also on my website, which is not updated. The only thing I have on the website right now going is really the power rankings on that DG Core Room, DFS.com. But that is now updated. And I'm just trying to pull up the power rankings real quick. My computer's getting so I swear during the show I try to have so much information up. My computer's so slow during the show. So the power rankings, and again, it's getting tough, man. And let me just say, we've now had over 300 players in Chambers this year, which is awesome. So thanks to all you guys for playing. It's I mean, the demand is pretty crazy. I get sometimes up to 100 or so DMs a day trying to get into Chambers. I'm trying to do 2 or 3 a day. It's just administratively, it gets really hard if I try to open up 3 a day. And I am still working with FanDuel trying to get them to increase the limit so we can have like a 50-person contest or so. But so the power rankings came out, it's updated. And really, everyone in the power rankings they've cashed at least 5 times. SCast12 at Fluckin' Fantasy is the new #1 player. He took down the best of the best Chambers on Friday as well. And he cashed 3 straight nights this week. He's been on a roll. He was actually the #1 player last year before DFS became illegal in New York. So congrats to him. And I just want to give a shout out to two guys who were not ranked last week who are now ranked. Matty Millions is the 5th player. He's new to the rankings. And the Squad God is now number 8. So congrats to you guys. But everyone in the top 10 is really, really solid job. And actually there were from 7 through 18. It was pretty close, quite honestly. So there's a lot of people on the verge of making the power rankings. So that's good to see. In terms of Chambers on Saturday night, we had some high scores. Saturday ended up being a lot higher score than I anticipated after watching the first few games. And we had practice squad money. I think it was his first time entering Chambers, if I'm not mistaken, and he took it down, which is pretty amazing. He had a score of a 320, which was a really good score on this night. So congrats to him. And the other winner, we had only 2 Chambers on Saturday, was WTBA. He's been a long-time listener of or follower of mine on Twitter and listener of the pod. So congrats to him. He actually just dropped out of the rankings, and then he got the win on Saturday with a score of 340, which was beautiful. So congrats to him. He wants back in the power rankings. Let's talk dream killers and dream lovers, shall we? Dream killers. Dennis Schroeder. I mean, point guard, man, there were a lot of guys right in that 7K range. There was Kemba who had put up about 40. He grinded and got it late. He had value, but still, I mean, if you played him, you probably were not happy because you missed out on Kyrie. But there was Kemba, Kyrie who went up for 50. All the Cleveland guys, Kyrie, LeBron, and Love, I think all had 50. I mean, amazing. And So there was Kyrie, Kemba, and then there was Dennis Schroeder. And if you played Dennis Schroeder, like I did in a lot of lineups, you were not happy because Dennis Schroeder was the one guy who basically bombed and only put up like 20 FanDuel points. And he's been so consistent lately. It was just so infuriating. And a lot of other point guards ended up outperforming him. So it just made he basically crushed your lineup. If you played him because of opportunity cost, you basically had no chance because Kyrie, Reggie Jackson, guys like that had really good nights. Denver was a big disappointment for me. I had a lot of Wilson Chandler at small forward. He was a core player for me, and he just crapped the bed. And actually Gallo, because Denver is starting Gallo and Wilson Chandler now. Gallo's at the 4, and then Jokic to the 5. All three of those guys kind of disappointed, quite honestly. Jokic keeps getting in foul trouble because he's so confused about actually getting a chance of playing 30 minutes. He doesn't know what to do. He's just so conditioned and he only gets 20 minutes. He doesn't have to worry about fouls. And now suddenly he does. And he can't stop grabbing people. Anyway, Wilson Chandler, though, stunk for the 19 FanDuel points. So did Gallo. They just couldn't make shots. And Jokic couldn't stop fouling. Thaddeus Young, I liked him a lot in GPPs. I knew what I was getting myself into with him, though. He was only 4.9K. That was worth the flyer. He didn't pan out. Andre Drummond, this bumbling, lazy buffoon, he gets worse each year. I'm telling you. He's a worse player this year than he was last year, and he was worse last year than the year before, offensively and defensively. I don't know what the hell to say about him. Super frustrating. He always gets off to really good starts, and then he sucks down the stretch. I mean, part of it is because you can't throw him the ball in the fourth quarter because they're scared he's going to get fouled, and he can't shoot free throws, and that really does impact his game in real life and in fantasy. So he ended up only with like 30 FanDuel points, and on this night, if you didn't have Karl Anthony Towns, you were in some deep trouble because Karl Anthony Towns put up a 60-burger. And Drummond ended up with like 30, which wasn't horrible, but I mean, on this night, it wasn't good enough. It was a high-scoring night. If you played Judi Dench, Damian Lillard, because he always destroys the Warriors, well, not tonight. He put up a dud. I mean, it's getting really – I kind of just wish Golden State games weren't even on the slate. They were just taken down. It's just so annoying what to do with that team. Both not only Golden State, but also whoever plays Golden State that night. I mean, they won by 40. It was over like after 6 minutes. You basically knew the game was over. It just sucks. I mean, having to decide who to play anyone on Golden State or who plays against them, it's just annoying to me. And I mean, go figure. The Tin Man, lets us down tonight. 9.8K, and he put up 20 FanDuel points. That's not going to do it. Everyone from Portland basically sucked. Mason Plumlee, disaster. If you rode the Kyle O'Quinn train, I know a couple of you guys did. He put up a 2 FanDuel point night, so you probably drank a lot of whiskey if you played Kyle O'Quinn. Gorgie Dang, Minnesota. That was my favorite game to watch of the night. Was Minnesota-Houston, went to overtime, and Minnesota had a huge lead in the fourth quarter, and they just turned the ball over. They've done this a lot this year. Down the stretch, they cannot hold leads. Granted, you would think if they had a competent point guard like Ricky Rubio, that shouldn't be an issue, but Ricky Rubio is, even though he had a decent fantasy point night, they got to get rid of him. But Gorgie Dang was the one Minnesota guy who really struggled. Miles Turner, I thought that was a juicy matchup for both centers, Indiana versus Detroit, and both of them disappointed. It was just a frustrating night if you rostered one of those two centers. And then, I know some people call them the Splash Brothers. I call them the Crash Brothers, and that's Steph and Clay. These bumbling buffoons. It's just annoying. I'm just sick of them. I might try to find a way to I guess I can't. I guess I could email FanDuel and ask them to remove them from my from like the player profile, so I never see their names again. I just don't want to play them. It's just so annoying. And you always have to throw. If you play a lot of lineups like me, you always got to throw them in a tournament because you never know when they're going to go off. It's just. And Curry always goes nuts against Portland, but now they have Durant. And this is where it's on full display. I mean, when you have the best team ever during the regular season, the next year get the second best player in the NBA. This is what happens. It sucks, and I root for them to lose in real life so hard every game. So I hope you guys can join me, and maybe together we can use our karma together to root against Golden State. So they hopefully will lose in the playoffs or something. Dream Lovers. There were actually a lot on Saturday. It was a high-scoring night. It really was. The Judge did not do that great on Saturday, but overall, there were lots of guys players that went off. Moutier, who's a guy from Denver, he's with me with Eric Bledsoe at Magic Mountain. He's a roller coaster. Although he wouldn't even be allowed on the big rides because he sucks. So I mean, he sucks 8 out of 10 games. But he had one of those nights for him. He had close to 40 FanDuel point nights. Kyrie, I mentioned the big three for Cleveland against the Lakers. I mean, the key there was they came off and basically sleptwalked through the first quarter. The Lakers were able to get a little lead and keep that game close. So all the starters got big minutes for Cleveland, and Kyrie, Love, and LeBron all put up over 50. And it was beautiful if you played them. I don't know anyone who played all 3 of them. I didn't see. I know Bunch played 2. But yeah, if you played Swaggy P, this guy, he put up 40 FanDuel points. I mean, if you played on Saturday, you probably saw that D'Angelo Russell went out. He was ruled out about 30 minutes before tip, if that. Maybe it was 20. Maybe it was 15. It was late. So that made me change a lot of lines. I put in a lot of Ingram, which worked out for me really well. I think he might have had his best game of the year. He had 35 FanDuel points. And I used a lot of Clarkson, who did okay. Gave me 25. But the big winner was Swaggy P. He put up 40. And yeah, I mean when Russell, the first quarter of that Lakers game, Swaggy was just gunning the ball. I mean, it was him and Randall on every possession who were just shooting. So if you played him, congrats to you. Ryan Anderson, he's always a tournament guy. You should throw in a lot of. He had 40 FanDuel points. I mentioned Towns had a 60. It's part of the Houston game that I was watching. They had Ryan Anderson guarding him, and I don't know what the hell they were trying to do there. I guess Clint Capella barely played because he's not getting minutes anyway. But because Karl-Anthony Towns can go around the perimeter, so the problem was, Houston had no one to kind of match him on the perimeter. They were trying Ryan Anderson when I was watching, and I was like, this is not going to work out. And then Luol Deng again had just a 30 FanDuel point for the night for Luol Deng. If you see, still really cheap at 4.3K. Some injury news for Sunday. I'm not going to mention the Kelly Oubre concussion. He's doubtful, although I just did. So you can probably play some Markieff Morris if you want. Let's see. Rudy Gay is doubtful. Bogut is out. Caspi is questionable. Stupid Caspi. I mean, if Gay and Caspi, where's the Sacramento game? Wait a minute. Did I miss that? Is Sacramento's playing Dallas on Sunday? So not only is Utah playing Memphis, there's also – that can't be right. Is that right? No, I think that's wrong. Why is my sheet wrong, guys? This is what happens when you do a show on Saturday night or Sunday morning at 3:17 a.m. Yeah, maybe that's another game that's just earlier in the day. It's Sacramento at Dallas, because that's not on my screen. So I'm going to ignore that. So we don't have to worry about Rudy Gay or Omar Caspi. Although now I'm just curious, when the hell is that game? Thank God we don't have to worry about that game. I don't want to touch that game tomorrow. What time is that? Yeah, that's a 4 p.m. game. So thank God we don't have to deal with that. All right. What other news? Deion Waiters, it looks like he's going to be out again. So we can, the Miami guard should be fine. Tyler Johnson, I guess that's good. That's an interesting one because he's questionable with an illness, whatever the illness is. So if he's out, in theory, my boy Josh Richardson, who lets us down every night, but who still gets 30 minutes, could be in play on a small slate. And the big one of the day is Anthony Davis. He is questionable with the left lower leg contusion. Man, it feels like the last few nights he keeps leaving. I think he's been in the locker room like 6 times this year, and he's come back in like 2 or 3 of those times. So obviously, if he's out, that opens up a lot of value. Terrence Jones is the biggest beneficiary there, and that's kind of going to be the biggest thing we're going to have to monitor on Sunday. And frustrating. The original Tin Man. Of course, he's going to give us issues on this nasty slate. All right, in terms of over-unders, so Toronto, Orlando, man, there's some teams that on the surface have killed us all year that we're going to have a lot of exposure to. Orlando is a man. It's a tough team to gauge, but Toronto Orlando's a 218 over under. Toronto's only favored by 5.5, so that game should stay close, and that's a game that we're gonna have to attack. Brooklyn at Philadelphia. This is another game that we're gonna have to really focus in on. 216 over under. Philly's actually favored by 2.5. This might be the first time Philly's favored all year. The Pelicans at the Spurs, 205. The Spurs are favored by 11 right now, and I'm surprised that line is up because if Anthony Davis doesn't play, I would think at San Antonio that line's going to go way up. So, and that might also kind of I just can't envision this. I can't see the Pelicans staying close anyway. But if there's no Anthony Davis, I mean the Spurs should beat them by 30 in San Antonio. Boston Miami is a 201.5 over under, and then Utah Memphis, that's 185. And if they got him to work with a Sacramento Dallas, that honestly might be even worse than Utah Memphis. In terms of teams playing up in pace, the only one that I truly want to target is Philly. When I crunch the data, I mean the Spurs are playing up in pace a little bit against New Orleans, but that's about it. So I mean Philly, has a big jump because Brooklyn plays top 3 in the league in pace. Defensive versus position. Trying to think, see what jumps up. Obviously, you guys know by now, right, that we attack Brooklyn at literally every single position. They're either worst or second worst. Oh, look at that! In shooting guard, now they're and power forward, they're third worst. So congrats to Brooklyn. You're doing a little better. And then let's see the center position. You can really attack Orlando, even though Bismack plays a lot of minutes. Vucevic still gets a lot of run. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing centers. My favorite sneaky ninja, Jonas Valanciunas, is going to be in play on Sunday. No one's going to play him except me and probably a couple of the listeners. And normally every time I mention that he's going to be a good play, he never lets me down. I'm trying to think. He hasn't let me down too much this year. I mean, there's been some days when I told you if Toronto's not playing a team with a legitimate center, then his minutes are going to be in question. So, but with Vucevic or Biyombo, I think they got to give Valanciunas 26 is probably the floor, and about 32, 34 minutes is the ceiling. So Valanciunas at 5.4K, he's going to give you, if he gets those minutes, he'll get 30. I think the floor is like around 25 FanDuel points as long as he gets his minutes, and he's cheap. Other guys that other thing that stand out to me, Miami and Boston are both teams that you can attack at the center position as well. So Whiteside and Al Horford are interesting plays. And then this one, yeah. I think this is because Jay Crowder was injured. Boston gives up the 3rd most points to opposing small forwards. The problem here is 1, Miami doesn't really have a legitimate small forward, and 2, Jay Crowder was injured a lot, so I don't buy into that too much. All right, let's move on. Let's go on to the plays, the top plays at each position. The meat of the show. The Waffle House waffle of the show. And speaking of Waffle House, the former Waffle House the captain of the Waffle House team from 2 years ago, now he's the leader and the captain of the Panera Bread team because he's skinny, and it's Kyle Lowry, 8.5K. I always mention Kyle Lowry's usage rate because I'm always monitoring that. I'm hoping that one day it's going to skyrocket up. It stays around the 27% mark. I want to see it higher, but still, versed in the highest over/under of the day. Just a nice safe play versus Orlando. Orlando is, they're not that great defensively. They give up like the 10th or 11th most FanDuel points to point guards. So Lowry's a pretty nice safe play. I mean, him and DeMar are both safe. I mean, the last 3 games he hasn't been great. He's basically kind of let me down because he's 35, and 29. And really from him, I want at least 40 if I'm going to be paying that salary. But on a night like this, safety means something. So, I have no issues playing him in cash or tournaments. It is the highest over-under of the night, so it's perfectly fine. Isaiah Thomas, 8.1K. Now, we have conflicting data here because Isaiah Thomas, the usage rate is the highest on the board for point guards by far on Sunday. besides John Wallace, who's not in the slate, is 35%. I love it. He's coming off the injury, and he did great his first game back, played 35 minutes at 35 FanDuel points. And the bad news is Miami, it just plays at a slow down pace, even though I thought they're going to pick it up this year with Dragic running the show. That hasn't quite happened. And Miami gives up the third fewest points to point guards. But with that said, I still like Isaiah. If I had to, the usage rate is so juicy. But, I guess if I had to go, if I'm choosing between Lowry and Isaiah, I guess in cash games, just because of the over-under factor, and, Isaiah can be scoring dependent, I would go Lowry in cash and lean Isaiah in GPPs. Although if you want to differentiate and use either one in cash on Sunday, quite honestly, you could. I would probably go Lowry over Isaiah. But I will definitely be using a good amount of Thomas in tournaments. Goran Dragic, 7.4K. It's that same game. So I love the fact that Isaiah is back because that means Dragic will have him and not Marcus Smart to deal with. Dragic is a 30% usage rate. So, you basically can have and this is a nice little game to game stack because it's maybe it will go under the radar. Even though it's a small slate, I don't know if a game can go under the radar, but it does have one of the lowest over-unders at 201.5. So hopefully you get some people who just overlook this game. I'm not going to. I think it actually is going to play at a faster speed than Vegas anticipates. Dragic, he's been pretty consistent. I know he killed me. I think it was it Tuesday or Wednesday when he put up 25 FanDuel points against Indiana. But against the Clippers and Chris Paul on, I think it was Friday, he had 48 FanDuel points. So I think he's an excellent play here. You're getting him, about $1,000 cheaper than Lowry and $700 cheaper than Thomas. So, I'm fine if you want to use him in cash as well. It's another guy. As long as Dion Waiters, my rule on Dion Waiters. Dion Waiters is out. That means Dragic usage is going to go up, and there's lots of more shots available. And if Tyler Johnson is out, then I even like Dragic more. So if Tyler Johnson is out, I probably will go Dragic in cash games. If Tyler Johnson is in, maybe I use Kyle Lowry in one of those spots, or in that spot instead. Mike Conley, 7.1K. So Conley's back. If you guys, I'm not sure if people are paying attention to what Memphis is doing these days because it's another team that can be pretty frustrating. He played. He got 29 minutes in his first game back. And if you tell me Lowry's going to get 30 minutes at that price, it's okay. It's not great. The problem is this is a disgusting game versus Memphis. Memphis gives up the least amount of points in the NBA to opposing point guards. Or sorry, Utah gives up the least amount of points. That's who Memphis is playing. So I certainly am not going to use Conley in cash games. If you want to take a shot in tournaments, I guess you could. I don't. It's not a play you can fall in love with right now. Not against Utah. Drew Holiday, 7K. Look, you can attack the Spurs guards. You can attack them at point guard and shooting guard this year. If Anthony Davis is out, who the hell else is going to score and shoot for the Pelicans? Terrence Jones is going to get some shots. Buddy Hield. Gangster Galloway, I guess they're going to try to shoot. Solomon Hill. I always get Lance Thomas and Solomon Hill confused because they're both just dead men walking and they're useless on the basketball court offensively. But so I think Drew Holiday is a sneaky tournament play on Sunday. There's clearly better options for cash games, and probably for tournaments on paper. But especially if AD plays, I'm going to have one lineup where if AD plays, I'll have one lineup of a Drew and AD because I always love to pair a point guard with a big man because if Holiday gets 10 assists, half of those have to go to Anthony Davis. But if AD is out, I'll throw Holiday in at least one or two tournaments and hope that he takes 30 shots. It could happen, and he'll be low owned. Jeremy Lin. I love the matchup. I love the game. I love this Brooklyn-Philly game. I want to attack it. The problem here is Lin only got 20 minutes last game, and I would expect him to get only around that amount again. Once he starts getting over 30, he's going to be in my lineups a lot. But at only 20 minutes, I can't pull the plug. So watch the news and see if you hear he's going to get more minutes. Alfred Payton, 5.7K. He's had a couple 50-point nights. The last two have been back to the Alfred Payton we're used to. I think he let a lot of people down because he was the highest owned he's been all year when Orlando played Brooklyn a couple nights ago, and he put up 24 Fando points. I mean, the problem there was minutes, and he's not starting, so the minutes for guys like him and Aaron Gordon are always frustrating. And he only played 21 minutes, and that's 24 Fando points in 21 minutes is pretty good. And he's becoming like a fantasy point per minute guy. But the problem is the minutes just aren't great. So in this matchup versus Toronto, what is Toronto's DVP? It is they're middle of the pack, so not elite. But so I mean, Alfred Payton, he's okay. I mean, he's cheap. He should see. I think the floor is like 24 minutes, and if he does get more, he could put up a triple double. So I mean, I think he's okay if you want to throw him in a tournament or two. If you want to stack that Toronto Orlando game, I would put a Payton, Fournier, Vucevic, or Payton, Fournier, Ibaka. You actually play 3 Orlando guys. If you're gonna stack that game, Tyler Johnson, just watch the news and see if he plays. If he plays, he's safe. He's gonna get 30 minutes. Tim Frazier, man, I don't know. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do with Tim Frazier. Last game he played, I mean, he's still getting like 25 minutes or so, even though Drew Holiday's back and Buddy Hield and Gangster Galloway and all these guys and he's flashed 50 Fando point potential. So that means maybe I throw him in a tournament, especially let's say Anthony Davis doesn't play, right? And let's say the Spurs blow New Orleans out. Tim Frazier could easily get some extra blowout minutes. So let's say he gets 30 minutes because it's a blowout. And then suddenly he could put up, 35, 40 Fando points. So in a tournament on a small slate like this, you can do it. Other than that, in terms of value guys, I mean, the biggest decision for me right now is Sergio Rodriguez. Do I want to use him in cash games? I've used him in cash games a decent amount this year, and he's done me well. And then the last week, he's basically just banged my head against the wall, and my body's just soaked in tequila and whiskey after I play him because he's been freaking destroying me. 14.5 Fando points against the Lakers. It was just disgusting to watch. And quite honestly, TJ McConnell looked better than he has. The last few games I've watched from Philly, TJ McConnell looks better every game. So I'm worried that Coach Brown is just going to start TJ McConnell over Rodriguez at some point here. But look, it's 4.8K. He has the best matchup in terms of, Brooklyn is the worst team in the NBA at almost every position. So in theory, even if Sergio gets only 24, 25 minutes, he should get you 25 Fando points. And so right now, I still think it's fine for cash. It's just annoying me because I hear the little footsteps of little 4'11" TJ McConnell coming. And speaking of TJ, he's probably a sneaky tournament play if quite honestly against Brooklyn. But I think Rodriguez, as long as he's still starting, he's fine for cash games. And even tournaments, if you want, you could do it. He could put up a 30 Fando point night. He's had good nights this year. And other than that, I mean, that's really the only value guy I want to look at. I mean, I guess the Tony Parker, Patty Mills situation, I still think, Patty Mills for tournaments if you want. And if Parker's starting, if you want to throw Parker in a cash game, you can. Because if Parker's going to get 25, 26 minutes, he should get you 20, 25 Fando points. And on a small slate like this, he's 4.2K. So, it does open up the rest of your lineup. And then George Hill is out. So if you still want to play Mac Daddy, you can. Although just remember they're playing Memphis now, and Memphis is no joke. So Shelvin Mack, I don't think I want a ton of him on Sunday. Shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan. Look, man, lately I just love the safety that DeMar gives me. I mean, he's going to give me 40 Fando points. I don't have to worry about one spot. So I only got 8 left to worry about. I might just plug him in cash games and move on. It's just I wish the price would be 8K. But still, I mean, he had 49 Fando points last game. I told you guys we can attack Atlanta guards. Hopefully you used him a couple nights ago when they played Atlanta. He was terrific. He had 34 actual points. He just torched them. And the reason Lowry's usage rate is so low is because DeMar is at 34.4%. I mean, he gets so many shots. It's just it's his show, and I like the matchup versus Orlando. You can easily attack Evan Fournier, even though shockingly Orlando gives up the 5th fewest points to shooting guards. But I'm not going to let that phase me. I think DeMar is just a nice safe cash game play. Shooting guard sucks on Sunday. It's nasty. So he gives you some safety, and you can move on. Avery Bradley, he's 7K. That's still a little too pricey for me. You know, he should be 6K, quite honestly, if you ask me. At the most 6.5K. You know, the price came up because Isaiah was out, and the new price does not reflect the fact that Isaiah is back, and I don't like it. Versus Miami, though, if you want to throw him in a tournament, you can do it. Tyreke Evans, why is his price 6.5K when he's playing like 10 minutes a night? No, thank you. Unless we hear his minutes are coming way up. Evan Fournier, 5.9K. Man, I think my second cash game play might be Evan Fournier. It's both the good shooting guard in that Toronto-Orlando game. It's just not a good position. Fournier's been relatively consistent, 26, 36, 38, 40 the last 4 games. Now, granted, a couple of those were against Denver and Brooklyn and Atlanta. So three of the 4 were against elite matchups for him. Other was against the Clippers, though, who are actually ranked pretty high in DVP at shooting guard, surprisingly. So, look, I think Fournier's fine for cash and tournaments. Rodney Hood, 5.4K. I don't know if any of you guys have been playing Rodney Hood lately. I mean, I really haven't. I played him the beginning of the year a little bit. He started off the year great. Then he dealing with some like nagging injuries, and then I kind of haven't looked his way at all. And unfortunately, in this nasty over/under game at Memphis, I probably won't look to him much either. I mean, and he probably gets some Tony Allen defense, which makes it worse. But maybe in a tournament or two, just to differentiate myself and get someone less than 5% owned. Sean Kilpatrick, 5.4K. I mean, I love this Brooklyn-Philly game. I mean, the problem here is, you know, Kilpatrick, everything about him is going to start trending in the wrong direction because Jeremy Lin's back. He put up 24 FanDuel points last game. He played 27 minutes. I mean, you know, as long as Lin's only going to play 20 minutes, I still think Kilpatrick's fine, and I do love this matchup against Philly and him going up against, I mean, I guess it could be Gerald Henderson and Stauskas. So Kilpatrick's fine. It's just I need to check him and see how many minutes. Remember, the more minutes for Lin, the worse it is for Kilpatrick. Tony Allen's 5.3K. I keep fading him, and every day he like slaps me in the face through the television screen and laughs at me because the last game versus Sacramento, 32 FanDuel points. And the game before that versus Cleveland, 33 FanDuel points. I'm not going to play him again in this matchup versus Utah. But if you want to use him in cash, I can't really argue with it. I still don't think it's an ideal spot for him. And his price keeps going up, too, which makes it even worse. But he's been really good. He's surprising the heck out of me. Under other guys under 5K, Josh Richardson, man, his price is dipping down to 4.3K. He's got 30 minutes the last 2 games. He's just not producing. But, I mean, he only has to give us close to like 20 FanDuel points. Look, if you need to save on Sunday, I think if Tyler Johnson's out, he's a lock for 30 minutes. Even if Tyler plays, I think he's going to get like 25 minutes, maybe more. So I think he's safe for cash and for tournaments. He does have upside. It's just he hasn't flashed it yet. Other than that, I mean, I guess wait for the Anthony Davis news. If Anthony Davis is out, you can take flyers in tournaments on guys like Buddy Hield and Langston Galloway. I mean, even each one more, quite honestly, if you want. You know, and if Anthony Davis is out, I guess the guy for cash I would use is Buddy Hield, and tournaments is Galloway. But the other problem is, even if Tyreke Evans, any minutes that he's getting, that's going to hurt those guys as well. So I'm not really going to look to play too many Pelicans. Although it's an interesting strategy on Sunday to play one of these Pelicans, you know, and hopefully they get some minutes if it's a blowout, and it should be a blowout versus Spurs. Kawhi Leonard, 8.3K. He's back to being super consistent the last 5 or 6 games, 39, 41, 47, 41, 41, 34, 35. So the blowout concerns me a little bit here, especially if no Anthony Davis. Then I could see Popovich limiting all their minutes. But he's the one guy for the Spurs who seems to be pretty safe, man. I mean, he put up 39 FanDuel points against Phoenix. He played only 27 minutes. So, I mean, I could see similar minutes like that against the Pelicans because the Pelicans are so bad. If Anthony Davis isn't playing, even if Anthony Davis plays, quite honestly, they're not very good. So Kawhi's, I still think he's okay for cash. I'm a little nervous about it. In the tournaments, you can play him a tournament. I mean, if the game stays close, maybe he gives you a 50 burger. I mean, remember, there's no James Harden, there's no LeBron, there's no Durant today, there's no DeMarcus Cousins, there's no John Wall in this slate. So you need to spend your money on someone. Gordon Hayward, 7.7K. I mean, Utah is interesting right now because Derek Favors is back playing some minutes. Only guys from Utah I would look to are a little bit of Mac Daddy, Gordon Hayward, and I guess and then Rudy Gobert. Tough matchup here versus Memphis, so I think Hayward's going to be overlooked, underowned on Sunday, and you never know, man. Like occasionally, guys do go off against Memphis, guys go off against Utah. Maybe this game goes to overtime. I mean, these are the types of chances you got to take. I mean, you get a really good player, and hope for whatever reason they play at a faster pace. Maybe it stays close and goes to overtime. You never know. I mean, I don't want too much Gordon Hayward, but maybe in a tournament you put him in there and he makes something happen. Jay Crowder's 5.5K. Man, my two favorite small forward cash game plays are Jay Crowder and DeMarre Carroll. And then, but I should say that they were, but both those guys have just been killing me. First of all, hopefully you're not watching the games like me, because if you've been watching them, you're just screaming at the television screen. I mean, the one thing, at least Jay Crowder is getting minutes. He gets some 35, 36 minutes the last two games, and he 21, 28, 26, 20, 31, 22, 21, 24, 30. So he's still perfectly fine for cash. But it's just, man, there's so many games where the first quarter he has 4 FanDuel points. At halftime he has 8, and you're just scratching your head, banging your drum, throwing your dog across the room in a gentle way. But he's still fine for cash, 5.5K. It's just, it just can be frustrating. I mean, because he does have an offensive game. He gets some open shots, not as many as he should, because Isaiah Thomas is basically like Reggie Jackson on steroids. But I think Crowder is still okay for cash in this game. And I'm telling you, small forward is not that great either. So you need some safety. Crowder does have a floor of 20, so he's fine. Covington, Lord Covington, man. I'm not calling him a peasant anymore. He's 5K in the best matchup here, Brooklyn at Philly. I mean, the best part to me about Covington, I was super worried last game about his minutes against the Lakers, because basically everyone's healthy for them now. I mean, they have 3 7-footers now. They have Embiid, Okafor, and Nerlens Noel healthy. Then they have Ilyasova, who was playing really well. I mean, Rashawn Holmes, Hollis Thompson. I mean, they have lots of guys to play. Covington got 36 minutes, even with everyone healthy, and that's the best news to me. He only put up 23 FanDuel points, but he has elite upside capability. He can give you 40, 50 FanDuel points because he's not scoring dependent. He can get you blocks, steals, some rebounds. He had 12 rebounds a couple games ago. And if he's making a shot, he's going to give you 40 FanDuel points. If he's missing his shots, you might start crying, because he could go 1 for 12 from the floor. But at 5K against Brooklyn, this is an elite tournament play for me on Sunday. Let's hope we're not calling him peasant Covington when it comes at Sunday night after the game. Other than that, under 5K, Justice Winslow is back playing for Miami now. He got 29 minutes last game, 21 FanDuel points. He's priced super low. I'm not even sure if he's starting. I know he didn't start the first game back against Indiana, but he's had some games I think he had a couple games earlier in the year where he gave you 40 FanDuel points, or he got close. He got 36. He could get a 30 FanDuel point night and hit 6 times value. Miami's really banged up. There's lots of shots to go around. Not the best matchup in the world here, but 4.7K is dirt cheap on a nasty slate. I mean, yeah, why not? Bogdanovich, you want to throw him in some tournaments at 4.6K to save some money, get a part of that Brooklyn-Philly matchup. He's gotten 30 and 29 minutes last 2 games. He's basically a one-trick pony, but when his shot's falling, he can give you a 30 burger, and that would be almost 6 times value. So if you want to stack that Brooklyn Philly game, you could easily throw, for Brooklyn, I would look to, Kilpatrick, Bogdanovich, Brook Lopez, or maybe you go Bogdanovich, Booker Lopez, something like that. Aaron Gordon's 4.4K. Same thing I mentioned with Elfrid Payton. It's about minutes with him. It seems to be trending in the right direction. He got 40 against the Clippers. That's when he went nuts for 40 Fandom points. But that was against Austin Rivers. So take that with a grain of salt. And then he had that delicious matchup against Brooklyn, and he was owned by everyone. He put up 23 Fandom points. So he still basically hit value, and he got 29 minutes, which for him is pretty good. So if you're going to tell me on Sunday that Aaron Gordon's going to get 29 minutes, he's in play. That he's viable in both cash games and tournaments if he gets close to 30 minutes. This next guy, I don't even know what to say. DeMarre Carroll, because DeMarre Carroll is 4K. FanDuel is basically giving us to him for free. It's the holiday season and all. It's not Black Friday though, right? That's the day after Thanksgiving. DeMarre Carroll's been given it to us. I feel a mandatory obligation to use me some DeMarre Carroll. Even though I think his hair is ridiculous looking in the photo on FanDuel. And it's like 4 different colors if you look at the photo on FanDuel. And I watched this whole Toronto-Atlanta game, the last game they played. He was dreadful, and he only played 23 minutes. So, I can't, in good conscience, I can't say play him in cash, even though he's better than a 4. He's like a 5K player in real life. I don't know why, quite honestly, he's struggling so much. The minutes have not been great, 23, 20, and 29 last 3. He had a couple in the 30 before that. But look, at 4K, I'm going to use him a little bit. I don't know. There's so many – the problem at small forward, there's so many good, kind of cheap options. I love Crowder. I like Crowder a lot. I really love Covington. I like Winslow. I don't mind Bogdanovich. I like Aaron Gordon, and I like DeMarre Carroll. So there's who are we going to spend our money on? And I guess Kawhi Leonard is the expensive option, but he's only 8.3K. So we got to figure out what to do at small forward. I guess in good faith, I won't say play him in cash, although I might do it. I still might do it. I think 4K, it's insulting. I'm going to DM DeMarre Carroll right now. Tell him about this and what FanDuel has done to him, and stroke a fire under his belly tomorrow. It is the highest over/under of the night, Toronto at Orlando, and you got to be kidding me. He's not going to get 20 FanDuel points. Power forward, it's another position that's nasty. No Anthony. Anthony Davis questionable, so I'm not sure if he's playing. If he doesn't play. The next guy up is Serge Ibaka at 6.4K. He's a guy who's I've made fun of all year, and he's basically him and Tony Allen are. Their combined age might be 400 years old, and combined after the game they sit in the locker room and just laugh at me because I fade them every night, and every night they play well. At least it seems that way. Against Brooklyn, Ibaka and Vucevic were the 2 guys that went nuts. He had 41 FanDuel points. But look, he's just been really consistent. 21, 38, 37, 26 the last 5-6 games or so. He's 6.4K. Toronto, I don't know who's going to be starting at that Toronto power forward position. I know I forgot the guy's name who from Toronto was always banged up, and I can't pronounce his name anyway. But he'll probably go up against some Patrick Patterson, who I don't mind as a cheap tournament play as well. But he's fine. Look, he's going to get 30-plus minutes. He's one of the few Orlando guys who's locked into 30-plus minutes. His floor is like 31 minutes. He could see up to 36 or so. So I think he's a fine cash game play at that price. In tournaments, you can play him in tournaments too. The problem here is you have so much money. Even though I don't think it's an elite play, it's the highest over/under of the night. He's safe. He's been consistent. He's got a nice floor, and that screams to me cash game for this slate. You gotta the slate dictates what you do. Normally, I wouldn't want to play Serge for cash, but on Sunday, I think you can. LaMarcus Aldridge, tournaments only. Dear God, the Spurs, just scary stuff there. But yeah, for tournaments, he could go off. Derek Favors, the price is too high for getting only 14 minutes, and that's what he's gotten the last 2 games. So if the news says he's getting 30 minutes, then maybe. But unless he's getting 30 minutes, no, thank you. Trevor Booker. I love Booker. I think he plays so hard. Unfortunately he's at the roller coaster at Magic Mountain with Bledsoe, with Elfrid Payton, with a bunch of those other guys, because he's kind of boom or bust. 17, 32, 32, 15. So there you go. The floor's like 15 FanDuel points, and the ceiling is about 40. Nice matchup here though, at Philly. So if you don't want to use him in cash, I understand, because he could kill your lineup. But I'm going to use him in a decent amount of tournaments, and I'm going to hope he does well. And the thing I like most about him is he's not scoring dependent at all. He fills up the stat sheet: rebounds, blocks, assists, steals, and he actually can run some of that offense. Now that Lynn's back, he probably won't be doing that as much, but he can handle the ball. He brings the ball up sometimes. It's pretty. He's fun to watch. Zach Randolph, 5.7K. If you want to use him in a cash game, you can do it. Although versus Utah, I'll probably stay away. Ersan Ilyasova. So he's the biggest guy whose minutes have taken a hit since all the Philly guys are now healthy, and it's a shame, quite honestly. Ersan, he's a much better fit with Embiid. Embiid playing with Okafor or playing with Noel is a disaster. I mean, you heard, I don't know if you saw the comments, if they interviewed Embiid after the game, and he was like, dude, like, because Embiid had like his worst game of the year, and they were asking him, how was like playing with Okafor and the spacing, and he was like, well, it was definitely different, because I would look over my shoulder and I would see Okafor's defender right next to me, and that's the problem. I mean, Ersan spaces the floor. Okafor cannot, and they need someone to space the floor with Embiid, and it's just an utter disaster for Embiid having Okafor play, and it's annoying. And Okafor sucks too, quite honestly. So that's real life. In DFS purposes, Ersan takes a hit because they're playing Okafor a decent amount of minutes, and Ersan's now playing around 24, 26 minutes. He's still doing well. He's been consistent, 26 and 22 in the minutes that he's getting. He's always a fantasy point per minute guy. The problem is, unless Okafor or one of those Philly guys is going to be out, it's going to be super hard to get excited. And this, if those guys were out, if Okafor was out, and Ersan was going to get 35 minutes, he could destroy Brooklyn. This is an ideal situation for him to get a 40, 50 FanDuel point night. Maybe you still throw him in a tournament and hope that Coach Brown, listens to Embiid and lets Philly, spread the floor. And it's an interesting tournament play on Sunday. It's in theory, it's just an elite matchup if he got minutes. Nerlens Noel, yeah, he's furious. If you listen to his interviews after the game, he got 8 minutes, and let's just say he was not pleased about it. So, but you can't play him with 8 minutes. So Michael Green, his price has come down to 5K because his minutes have come down. Then now that Zebo's back, you want to use him in cash? I think it's okay to do. At that price, I still will probably stay away from that Utah game. Other than that, under 5K, there's really no one that I'd like under 5K. So that's why I mentioned that Serge Ibaka is going to be one of my cash game plays. And quite honestly, we might have to go with like Serge and Booker. And we might have to play some Ersan because it's just nasty. Oh, my bad. One guy I got to mention is Terrence Jones. If Anthony Davis is out, I think Terrence Jones is a must play in cash games. And he's a very good play in tournaments too. He's going to be the main beneficiary. The last two, and he's been good the last 2 games. Actually, the last 3 games, he's been good. 29, 26, 21 minutes, and 28, 29, 25 fantasy points. He's another guy. He's always been a fantasy point per minute guy for whatever reason, and I think it's just because Coach Elvin Gentry doesn't think that Terrence Jones is good defensively. What's weird is that Elvin Gentry is supposed to be like an offensive genius. He's the one that initially installed that Golden State offense, and you would think he would really like Terrence Jones' offensive game, but for whatever reason, he doesn't. Some games he doesn't give him a lot of minutes, and it's been perplexing all year because Terrence Jones, when he gets minutes, he always plays well for the most part. Oh, and then I guess to mention one other guy, Patrick Patterson. Look, we got to dig deep on this slate. It's only 5 games. He got 35 minutes last game against Atlanta. Patrick Patterson is a pure energy, pure hustle guy, and he's somewhat similar to Damari Carroll. He's not gonna. The ceiling is not great, but he's dirt cheap, and if that whatever that Niagara Falls, if that big goofy guy for Toronto is out, P-Pat could get a lot of minutes, and he's fine. Then you could roll him out in cash and save some money. I guess the question you'd be asking yourself, who am I saving money for? And that's a valid question to ask on this slate. But you never know with P-Pat. I played him earlier this year when he was starting a couple nights, and he did okay for me in cash games. Center. So we do have at least one guy we can somewhat spend up on. That's Whiteside, 8.9K. You can attack the Boston Bigs, even though I think that's part of that was Horford was out for such a long period of time. Although Whiteside is still, I think he's a good play on Sunday. You're going to have the money for it. It can be frustrating because he doesn't get the ball as much as he should, which I've been watching Miami and forever, and obviously D Wade's my favorite player, and he was down Miami, and Dragic and Whiteside never had a good connection. They've never meshed well in the court, and if you watch them play, that still really hasn't been the case this year. Whiteside usage rate is like 23%. It should be, what basically like 28%. That's what Brook Lopez is. So Whiteside, good play. Some people will probably say it's an elite play on this slate. I don't think it's elite. I think it's really good, and I will definitely use him in tournaments. And if you want to go that route in cash, you can. Although there's another guy that I think I'm going to roll with in cash, who I'll get to in a minute. Marc Gasol. Yeah, I don't play anyone versus Gobert, and even though Gasol is great now that Conley's back, Gasol's price skyrocketed up. It's 8.4K, and a lot of that was because when Conley was out, he was doing everything. The offense was running through him. Now that will not be the case with Conley back, so I don't want Gasol against Rudy Gobert. Al Horford, 7.9K. This is a nice, sneaky, under-the-radar play. Center is actually center is my favorite position on Sunday, and so I think Horford's going to be under-owned. You can attack Whiteside defensively. He struggles moving his feet defensively, especially on ball. He's a decent off-ball defender, but not on ball. So I think Big Al could take advantage of this matchup. Big Al's another guy at Magic Mountain with me on the roller coaster. It's 48 and 23 yards last 2 games, and that's kind of sums up what he's done to me this year when I played him. It's very hard to figure out, but I think he could take advantage of this matchup. Let's just hope Isaiah Thomas passes him the ball a little bit. Rudy Gobert, 7.5K. I don't like playing guys against Gasol. So, I don't like playing guys against Gobert. I don't like playing guys against Gasol. So this entire game I want to pretend is not even going to happen. The problem here, it's a small slate. So in a tournament format, maybe I play a little Gobert. He's $1,000 cheaper than Gasol, and he's been great, and he's only one of the Utah guys that's going to be locked into big minutes. But it's not on paper, not a good play on Sunday. Brook Lopez. Man, the price has come up now. It's up to 7.5K. So he's going to be going up against Embiid. Brook Lopez, he might be the most skilled offensive big man in the game. So I think this is a really good spot for him. He's basically getting 32 to 33 minutes. I told you the usage rate at 28% that's really nice. I think Lin playing actually helps Lopez because Lin breaks down the defense. He could penetrate, and then Lin will throw up some junk, and Lopez could actually get a rebound, offensive rebound, put back, or Lin will find Lopez for an easy layup. So the price is the thing that bothers me the most, and I think he's going to be able to abuse Embiid because Embiid, is not the best defensively. He's still so young and so raw defensively. So I like it. I think this is somewhat of a sneaky play because I think everyone's going to probably go towards Embiid in that matchup. Maybe not, but Brook Lopez is fine. It's a little pricey for him, but he's in a good spot. I think quite honestly, that's a safe game that's safe for cash if you want to roll up Brook. But as of right now, the guy that I am using in cash games, that's Joel Embiid, coming off his worst game of the year. where he had only 24 FanDuel points against the Lakers. Very frustrating to watch. A lot of that, like I said, was because Okafor's playing, and Okafor gets in his way. He really does, and it's just super frustrating. I mean, Embiid has a usage rate of 34.5%. Brook Lopez, you can attack defensively. So, and he's, Embiid's $700 cheaper. I gotta think he's finally gonna come through for us. He's getting 28 minutes. He had season high 29 minutes against the Lakers. So if he gets 28, 29 minutes, I think for cash games, he's a really, really, really nice play on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, he's not gonna let us down again. Come on, Joel. Tournaments, yeah, I mean, you could do. I think he's fine for tournaments too. It is pricey for knowing he's only getting 28 minutes, but it's Brooklyn. We have to attack Brooklyn at every position. So yeah, I mean, it's just too good for me to pass up. And the upside, he could get you 40, 45 FanDuel points in 28 minutes. So I love me some Embiid. And I'm hoping people don't play him because they're scared of how he did the last couple games. But I think most people are going to realize it's Brooklyn and jump on the train. Other than that, Pau Gasol, yeah, I mean, the Spurs guys, tournaments only if you want to do that. I think I mentioned Valanciunas at the top of the show. I don't remember why I mentioned him already, but I think I did. Playing Orlando, I love to attack Vucevic. They give up third most points to fantasy to opposing centers. So Vucevic is going to be my sneaky play at center again. Everyone's going to be going Embiid, Brook Lopez, Whiteside. No one's going to play Valanciunas. I will play him in some tournaments. I won't use him in cash games probably. I'll use him in tournaments. And hopefully he gives me 35 FanDuel points, maybe 40, and I win a bucket full of money. You want to play Okafor? I'm not going to play him out of pure principle just because he's destroying Embiid. I hate you, Okafor. Yeah, no, look, if it's a cheaper way to get exposure to attacking Brooklyn, right? Okafor's got 24 minutes last game, and he put up 25 FanDuel points, actually 26, so he played well. And even though he screws up Embiid, look, if you want to go cheap and go Okafor, I think you can do it. I think you can do it for cash games, quite honestly. And if you want to roll him out in some tournaments, I don't think the ceiling is great, but it's just a nice cheap way to attack Brooklyn, so it's fine. And other than that, if you want to go Bismack, you can, whatever. And that's about it. Oh, I didn't mention I didn't mention Vucevic for Orlando. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't like to attack Toronto bigs. They're pretty good defensively. I know Vucevic's coming off a good game. I think he had close to 50 FanDuel points when he was questionable all day too, and he came in and put up 48 FanDuel points. Buster. Where's Vooch? Oh God. I never can find Vucevic. There he is. So what is Toronto's Dvp? Yes, Toronto gives up the 11th fewest to opposing centers. They defend that spot pretty well. I don't think it's a great spot for him. I mean, it's an interesting pivot. I mean, I think out of Lopez, Embiid, he's clearly below those guys in terms of on paper who to play. So if you want to pivot off just to be contrarian on a small slate in a tournament, you can do it. I mean, he does have the upside. It is the highest over/under of the day, or of the night. So you can do Vucevic, man. It's a somewhat sneaky play, and he'll be under-owned. So I'm fine with it. I mean, maybe I'll use him in a tournament or two just to get creative. All right, that's it. We made it. Hopefully you enjoyed the special Sunday edition of the show. So if you want in on Chambers on Sunday, remember just to tweet at me, let me know. We'll probably do 2 Chambers, maybe 3 if the demand is there. My strategy for slates like this, I'll usually play kind of half my normal amount, unless I feel really good after all the research is done and after all the injury news comes in. So don't go crazy on this slate. But look, you can attack these slates. I've won lots of money on 5-6 game slates before. So let's do it again on Sunday. Let's have a good time with it. Hope you guys enjoy some football too, if that's your thing. I actually have not been playing DFS football this year, NFL, even though I did really well last year. I've just been too busy and the basketball's taking up too much time. But Hopefully, guys, if you're doing that, you have some good success. And I will see you guys again for Monday. So hope you had a good weekend. And court is adjourned, my friends.